This is the concierge, sir.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega. And in this episode, we're actually introducing a couple new things, like the open I just played. And then also, we're going to be talking, or really having more of a focus on what we're going to be talking about in these episodes. So I've been kind of tinkering around with different ideas. So I thought I have some really good stories. Why do I not just share them every time I'm on here? So we're going to have a story time part of this episode, and then we're also going to have a focus at the beginning of the episode. So the first half of the episode is supposed to be a little bit more informative, and the second half is for those of you that may not be in Las Vegas and want your little slice of the Las Vegas Strip. And I'll give you one of my more favorite stories from the week, because for the most part, I've been pretty good about going out every week and at least coming back with at least one fun thing to tell you guys. So we're going to be focusing on, in this episode, the Linq Promenade, which I actually went to today, just because, just feeling it. It was like a nice sunny day outside. I didn't have to do stuff later, for work, and I thought this would be a really good day to have some fish and chips. So I ended up going to the Gordon Ramsay fish and chip stand or outlet or whatever you want to call it, and I'll tell you about that experience as I go by. So this episode is going to be centered around the Linq Promenade near the Linq and the Flamingo Hotel. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our concierge focus for the day. So we're going to be talking about the Linq Promenade. So for those of you that are not aware, but hopefully you are, the Linq Promenade is located in between the Linq Hotel and the Flamingo Hotel. So this area actually just used to be an alley. There was nothing back here. You can actually, if you go back and watch Ocean's 13, there's a scene where at the end, they have sort of like this, they're looking up at this, helicopter, and one of the quote-unquote bad guys is standing there looking at these diamonds. That little corridor is actually where the Linq Promenade is. So the Linq Promenade is actually, been around for quite some time. I actually used to work at the Ferris wheel, the high roller, the observation wheel, as we always used to have to correct people, back in 2014 or 15. And from then, that was pretty brand new. So I think they had been open for about, I want to say 2 or 3 years, the big giant wheel. And they had just started putting stuff in there. There were sort of like these big things that you can find there. So they had like the Yard House. They also had like this hot doggery, which was like kind of like a hot dog spot. Then a couple different places inside. They had Flour and Barley. They had the Brooklyn Bowl, which was like sort of like the mainstay of that section. But I feel like they've really found what they're known for, and it's just a lot of stuff in one area. So the person who actually designed the Linq Promenade used to work at Downtown Disney, or he worked for Disney for the concept of Downtown Disney. So that's why it feels very much like right outside of the Universal City Walk. That's really what it feels like. But I've actually been to the City Walk in Los Angeles, and honestly, it's not as good. It's not as good as the Linq Promenade. I think the Linq Promenade, after walking down it, today during the, obviously the daytime, is so much better. I think the Linq Promenade is great really for anybody. And I think that's really what they wanted. They wanted the Linq Promenade to be really for anybody who is an adult, who if they have children, really a family-friendly place as well. So I think they've really succeeded on the Linq Promenade, and I think you should definitely make it a point to walk down that space, whether it's in the wintertime or in the summer. I think this is a really great summer spot, and it's a really great spot on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, even, Friday afternoons, just to sit and people watch. I would say of all the areas on the Las Vegas Strip, the Linq Promenade is the number one place to, 1, people watch, and 2, bar hops. Let's go ahead and dive into some of the bars. So they have a lot of bars and restaurants here that, sometimes you get both, but all their bars have views looking out into the Linq Promenade, which is very, very nice. Because the thing is like when you sit and you have sort of like a view of the Strip, you're really just looking at the street. But the cool thing about the promenade is that it's just people walking up and down the promenade. They also have the zip line, which I totally forgot to look up and see if they were running. I don't think they were running it today, at least in the daytime. But I totally forgot that they have that, what's nice about it, it's very clean. For being on the Strip, the Linq Promenade, very clean, But again, like talking about their bars have a great view looking out, which is amazing. So one of the bars that I really want to talk about, because they have a few, but one of the bars that I really caught my eye, and I think is in a fantastic location, like the center of the Linq Promenade is where they have these fountains, like these sort of like little fountains. Don't get too crazy. They put a Christmas tree there in the wintertime. But it's called the American Bar, with a can being capitalized. And this is really like just very much like 4th of July, backyard, white picket fence bar, which is great. I mean, they also had so many misters that it actually looked like you couldn't see in. But on a really hot day like it was today, it's fantastic. But they have a really great selection of TVs. They also have a really nice bar looking in at the TVs. But they also have, which is genius, a bar looking out onto the promenade. And it's actually indoor-outdoor, so you can actually sit outside, which actually has shade. And they have the big giant games, like the big giant like tic-tac-toe and the Connect 4. They have sort of like these lawn chairs that you can sit out. They're wooden, which is actually really nice. And it's just really, really nice spot to just hang, have a cocktail, have a beer, and just look at and watch the world go by. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend the American Bar for anytime you're going to be meeting up with people, or like a group, or just like a group of guys or a group of girls, whatever. It's really cool that it really feels like it can be for anybody. And I really enjoyed that about the American Bar over at the Linq Promenade. I would also say, like, as you go down here, you can really bar hop down on this part of the Strip, just because everything is so close together. Because you can go from the American Bar, then you can go over to the Tilted Kilt, which is one of the actual restaurants that's down there, along with Yard House, and you can't really do that many places. So I think this is actually a really good location for anybody who's here for a bachelor party or a bachelorette, or people who don't want to do the nightclub thing but want to go out and have a good time. The Linq Promenade is great, because other than just having these spots like the Tilted Kilt, Yard House, which are very straightforward like restaurants, they also have a place where you can party late night. So typically on Fridays and Saturdays, they have a Latin-inspired restaurant that also turns into sort of like a lounge, club-ish. It's more of like a really nice like bar, is the Chayo Taco. I know that all the people who follow Vital Vegas are going to jump on and say, oh, well, they have this like tax. Well, whatever. If you want to get away from the tax, do what you got to do. They have this entertainment tax, I think, on some of their drinks or some other food items. But either way, if you're just trying to go out, have a good time, don't worry about any of that. This place is so much fun. You get a really good mix of young people in here. You also get a mix of, people who are just wanting to have that sort of Latin flair. I think it's really, really nice down there, and especially in the evening. It just lit up at nighttime, just looks beautiful. But this is a really fun place to bar hop, is really what I'm trying to get at, is that you can't do this anywhere else on the Strip, and I really enjoyed sort of the vibes that you get on the Linq. They have also their own security that walks up and down the Linq Promenade that really keep it clean and sort of just moving, and also really great place for photo ops. But I've also been to, Tilted Kilt, and if you really want to gamble, you're steps away from the Linq Hotel as well as the Flamingo Hotel. But what really sets it apart is that it has the old school O'Shea's, which used to be in that location, same spot, little different the look on the inside. But when you actually go inside of it, it has this sort of like wooden floors. They have their own little like casino. They have a craps table. They have blackjack. They have roulette. Sometimes they have beer pong. They have live music in there on, crazy weekends. They have a big giant bar on one side that has these beautiful like frozen like Blarney drinks, I believe. They're like Irish coffees, but they have one that's like frozen, which my mom actually had and was really, really delicious. So after just sort of visiting, I just really enjoyed the vibe of this place. But the Linq Promenade is just packed with things. If you just sort of like go down the list of the food options, oh my goodness, just really great options for food. Places like Virgil's Barbecue, which I've eaten there. It's sort of Carolina style, which is, not my favorite. But they do have Texas style as well on the inside of that restaurant, as well as Memphis. But you just have to sort of look through, sort of find the thing that you like the most. But this is really great for large parties. So if you are going to be here with a large group for like a wedding, or a giant bachelorette party or a giant bachelor party, they do have outdoor seating as well as indoor seating and live music on the inside. And I think it's definitely worth it. I think I've walked out here and there's people that sit on the outside and it's just a really good time. And you don't really get a lot of that space. And again, a lot of the restaurants here are very affordable, which you don't find a lot of these type of restaurants on the Strip that are good for large parties, good for anybody really. Yes, they're a little bit commercial because you can find a lot of these places in other cities. But sometimes when you come to Vegas, you have a large group that it's really hard to accommodate for like a fine dining meal. And I think this would be a really great substitute for that. And not even a substitute, really maybe like a first go around. So they have Virgil's Barbecue. They also have Ja Burritos, which have become, it's just a huge space, which used to be much, much smaller. But Ja Burritos is a sushi burrito spot, which those have become super popular. It takes up a huge section on the corner inside of the Linq Promenade. So if you're into that, this is a really great place to hang out. I love the vibes of the outside. And what I really enjoy about when I say vibes is that every spot feels unique to its location, which is really fun. I think that's a really great thing that you can get from a space where you can get so much out of such a small space on the Strip. So other than those ones, they also have Flour and Barley, which was one of my first places that I ate at when the Linq Promenade opened, was Flour and Barley. Flour and Barley is an Italian restaurant themed. They do have very, very straightforward Italian cuisine. They have spaghetti. They also have pizza. Pizza's really the thing that I recommend when you go there. And they also have these really tasty calamari, which I think is really, really delicious. So highly recommend Flour and Barley. Really great for first dates. They have a really nice outdoor section as well. You can actually look up and see the big giant wheel, which is really, really fantastic. And again, sorry for those of you that came to this pod, maybe wanting to hear more about the Ferris wheel. Maybe one day I'll talk more about it, but the Ferris wheel itself is worth it if you've never been to Las Vegas and you want to do it once. They do have their regular ride, which is usually $25 in the daytime or $30. I think the prices may have gone up. And then the evening, it typically goes up to $50, but they do have lots of discounts and stuff where you can get it for like $45. But again, typically, if you want to do that, that depends on the time of the day, usually depending on the time of the season, because sometimes the cutoff is like 6 or 7 o'clock. You just have to double check. But that is the Ferris wheel. And again, that runs, I believe, starting at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning until midnight. So as we move on back to our restaurants, the place that everybody knows about, if you live in one of those locations, is In-N-Out Burger. This was the first In-N-Out Burger on the Las Vegas Strip. There was actually two now, very close to the Strip itself. They have one of the more original versions, which is over on Tropicana, just over the bridge. You'll find the first In-N-Out that I saw in Las Vegas. Then when they built Allegiant Stadium, they built one on Russell Road, which is on the other side of the stadium, and now we have one on the Las Vegas Strip, the In-N-Out Burger on the Strip, which has become super popular. And again, it's fun seeing people wearing the hats again. But they do have an In-N-Out Burger there, which people, if you've never been to an In-N-Out Burger, this is your chance. You no longer have to take a car to go get one. It was funny because when I used to go to school at UNLV, there's actually an In-N-Out right next to campus, super, super popular. And we would see people pull up in limousines because they had never had an In-N-Out Burger and they wanted one before they went home. So In-N-Out Burger is there right next to their -5 ice bar. This ice bar is actually available for people under the age of 21. They do have obviously time restrictions on that, but it is one of the locations that does offer an under 21 package. They also have a couple different dessert spots like Sweet Sin, which really specializes in like little like cakes and that kind of thing. They also have Ghirardelli's, which has really, really good desserts and ice cream and chocolate, of course. And then they also have I Heart Candy, which is really just a gigantic candy store, which I just walked in there because it was just nice and cold on the inside. They have so many restaurants, I can't hit them all, but the one that I really want to talk about is the Gordon Ramsay Fish and Chips. It's probably one of the larger brands that is on the Linq Promenade. They do have Buddy's, like, whatever restaurant there. Never tried it. It's more of a Linq restaurant, like the hotel, and I don't condone. But the Gordon Ramsay Fish and Chips are absolutely out of this world. They are so, so delicious. There's usually a line. Don't plan on sitting and eating your food because this place is always full. But the line actually moves pretty quickly. If the line goes out the door, maybe I'll skip it, but if I'm able to get in line, usually the line does not take too long, and I'm able to get in and out pretty quickly. But Gordon Ramsay's Fish and Chips, they specialize obviously in fried fish and chips, of course, fries. But they also do chicken, which I just found out. They also do lobster, which is really popular, along with their shrimp, all fried, of course. Those are really good. They give you 3 pieces of fish. The shrimp, they believe they give you 4 or 5. The chicken, I believe, is 3, and I think the lobster is usually 2. So it could be 3. But going off of what I got, I had the regular fish and chips with the fries. The fries you can get like garlic parm if you want. You can also get them loaded and all this other crazy stuff, which is an extra charge. But if you just went in and got a fish and chips, that's it, no drink or anything, you're looking at about $21 plus tax. I ended up getting a fish and chips with a soda, so my total ended up being about $30. But it was super delicious. You get a lot of fries with that, and I did eat all of my pieces of fish. But really nice. You can see them frying the food in front of you, which is really fantastic. So let's just get into it. So I ended up taking my stuff and going outside to little space, because there's actually a seating outside. But I ended up going outside and I just stand and eat my plate. I just put it on this little section that you can find out, and then you eat. One time I ate when it was actually raining, and it felt super British. So that was a really fun experience. But I really enjoyed just eating my fish and chips. And I think it's actually one of his best food restaurants in general, on the Las Vegas Strip. And he has a few. He has a couple at Caesars. He has one at the Planet Hollywood, one at the Linq again, Harrah's, and I just love the fish and chips. So if you try one Gordon Ramsay place, highly recommend his just fish and chips restaurant at the Linq Promenade for sure. So I've gone through a lot of things. They have their breezy daiquiri, and I know I kind of talked a little bit fast through a lot of this, but it's just a really delicious place. I think it's great for anything casual. If you have children, they have so many things for kids. They have a virtual reality place. They have a place to buy socks and shoes, which is super popular for kids, I found out. They also have the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, which is down there, which is really good for, a nice date night. Honestly, I think the Linq Promenade would be like a number 1 date destination for me, if it wasn't located in one of the hardest places to get to on the Strip, especially with parking and all that good stuff on a Friday night or a Saturday. The parking can be a little hectic to get in and out of just because of its location. But overall, I think this would be my next stop for a date or for anything. If I have people in town, anytime I have any of that going on, I'd go to the Linq Promenade. They also have the Brooklyn Bowl, which has live music and so many things just to entertain you on your trip here in town. So really love my time at Linq Promenade today. I'll most likely be going back just because I loved it, and maybe I'll do a video from there next, coming up soon, just because I thought overall just it looked great, it looked clean, it looked awesome, and I really want to go back. So for right now, we're going to be finishing up our focus, and we're going to be introducing our new segment, which I'm going to be starting today, and I'm really excited about it, and I think it's time for a good story.
May I tell you a story?
Okay, so now it is story time. So I actually had my parents in town a couple weeks ago, and we ended up going to a restaurant, and then after that, we ended up I wanted to show them Fontainebleau because my dad had never been. So I took them to Fontainebleau, and most of you know that that's my home base, and I ended up taking them to the Collins Bar, which my dad ordered a tequila sunrise, I believe, which was funny because my dad thinks that a tequila sunrise is an old drink that nobody has ever ordered ever again since 1997. And the thing is that most bartenders, especially the bartenders at the cocktail bars that I go to, tend to know how to make drinks even if they don't make them on a daily basis. So there is a base level that they know how to make drinks. And just to let you guys in on the secret of the Collins Bar, which fantastic bar. If you ever come to Las Vegas, you'll probably find me there most of the time. But the Collins Bar was actually voted by Esquire magazine as one of the 3 best bars in the city of Las Vegas, and I think one of the only ones in the Las Vegas Strip. And the Collins Bar is absolutely fantastic, and they actually have 3 people that work there that used to work in, or not work in, but compete in cocktail competitions. So anyways, my dad gets a tequila sunrise, which came out delicious. It looked fantastic. I believe Ren was the one who made that one, and shout out to my boy Nick, who's been there, every single day that I've been there, every time I keep going. So Nick is an absolute gem of a guy and makes really fantastic cocktails. My mom also had a drink. Did she have an Amaretto Sour? No, she had a different drink that was on the menu, but regardless, they liked both of them. And again, they both came out perfect. So I ended up having my old fashioned. I was there with my parents, so really not like on the lookout for anybody to talk to or anything like that, because I'm with my parents. And we're listening to the piano player, doing a good job. And my dad starts getting a little bit antsy because that's what he does. He doesn't like to sit in one spot very long. He does like to gamble, so he really wanted to go hit the tables, wanted to play roulette, wanted to see what's going on in the main part of the casino, a little bit more vibes. I'm more just vibes on my own. I like to sort of hang, be on my own little spot, so on and so forth. So I tell them, go ahead, guys. Like, I'm gonna have one more drink here, and then I'll find you guys. So as I'm sitting there, there's also another woman sitting there, and there's like this sort of light that's separating us. And she says, "Oh, that's so cute. Your parents are so cute." Which I was like, "Thanks. Yeah, they're my parents. They're all right." So I'm sitting there just having a cocktail. And then she starts talking to me. And this is like rule number 1, is that if you're a guy, and you ever get a woman that starts the conversation in Las Vegas, I mean, unless you look like Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt, if they start the conversation, usually she ain't just there to have the drink. So she's there definitely like filling out a W-2, if you know what I mean. So as I start talking to her, I noticed that she was talking to the bartender quite a bit, which isn't always like a number 1 sign that they work there. Because, hey, I'm not a prostitute, and I go to bars and talk to bartenders, but didn't have the signs of a lady of the night. Typically, ladies of the night, which I've confirmed this with many bartenders, have very specific drinks that they order. So they typically drink, ladies of the night, they usually like to drink clear cocktails, is usually what you find. So vodka, gin, tequila. Usually not gin, though. Gin is more of like a refined drink, which most people don't order gin. So a typical, prostitute will be ordering like a vodka soda, vodka Red Bull. They'll also do like tequila reposado because it sounds fancy, or they'll do like a tequila and soda. That's usually like the cocktail go-to, which is normal. But this woman was drinking a red wine, which, cool, drinking red wine. And then she started just like asking a lot of questions in terms of like, hey, I want to eat later, and what is there to eat? So that's kind of like, that's a really easy way to get me to start talking to you, is just me giving you recommendations. So I gave these recommendations, and she kind of like was like, all right, got it. But it was getting late. It was probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock already. So she had to jump on it. But she kind of just kept sitting there. I did notice when I sat down, this is the first thing I always look at, is to see if people are engaged or not. So she was like, she had a ring on. So I was like, oh, she's engaged, whatever. So, I don't try to flirt or whatever. I'll just, talk and give them sort of like the Vegas experience that they just want to talk to people at a bar. So as I'm talking to her, she is Russian. So she's Ukrainian. So she is Ukrainian. And we talked about that. Was she Russian or Ukrainian? I had a couple cocktails that day, obviously. So I believe she was Russian. So as the Russian woman starts talking to me, and we start sort of hitting it off and giving recommendations and talking. I talk about upstairs, they have the Nowhere Bar, which we started talking about that, staying at the hotel. And she says, oh, well, do you want to go up there? Which was interesting. It was definitely interesting to be asked to go up to the bar, which maybe on a day that my parents were there, maybe I would have gone, but I didn't. I was like, no, I'm good. I got to finish this drink here. And then we kept talking, and as we, expanded the conversation, she told me about her fiance and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, well, how did he propose, and all like sort of the general questions. At one point, her ring did fall off. which I've been told now by people who have proposed to their girlfriends and now have fiancés and other women out in the world that if it is an engagement ring, that thing does not fall off. It does not slide off easily when you're just like holding it over the side of a bar. So slid off, grabbed it, gave it to her. And as we start talking, we're talking, and she ends up, saying something. And she said, "You seem like a very social person," but I didn't hear that. I heard, "Oh, did you just ask if I was a sexual person?" And she said, "Oh, no, that's later." And that was a big flag that popped up. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was just continuing to try to figure out whether this was like a vibes meeting or like a business meeting at this point. So kept talking, and then she ordered another glass of wine and ended up coming. And that at that point, I just said, I gotta go see what my parents are up to, and left the situation. So I hadn't been back to the bar with our bartender, Ren, that was there that day. So they know me pretty good there, so we kind of keep an eye on it. And it was a very particular meeting because my parents were there, so that's very easy to remember. So as I came back like the next day, a couple days ago, it's been a week or two, they start asking, I asked them, I was like, "Hey, so like that time that I was there, what do you think she was working or no? Like, what do you think?" And she's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "I thought it was like just vibes," and then she just kept babying her wine, and that really threw me off. So we were really confused on whether this was a prostitute or not a prostitute. Sorry, ladies, that's just sort of like hazards of the biz in Las Vegas when you come and hang by yourself, is that we're kind of unsure. And this is just a really good sort of just pin this for anybody who's listening this far into the podcast, is that if you ever find that that a group of girls or one or two women, usually two, there's never more than two, but usually two women that are at a bar in Las Vegas, a regular bar, just a regular like lobby bar or center bar, if they're by themselves, just two of them, dressed up and don't really have a plan for that evening, be wary. Be wary of like what you're going to be doing with this person and how many cocktails you buy these people as well, because they definitely could be working that evening. So just, keep that in mind when you go out, because it was funny later that evening when I met up with my dad, who was sitting at the Blue Bar, which is the center chandelier bar at Fontainebleau. He said, "Man, I can't, it's just so prevalent out here." I said, "What do you mean, Dad?" And he said, "Well, just like the hookers, they're everywhere." He said, "These two girls, they walk up to these group of guys. They will always walk up to a group of guys, because, hey, you got to make money. Time is of the essence." And they told the gentleman, "So drinks then?" And I always thought that was one of the funnier things, is that they're just, "So drinks?" She's like, "So what drink are you going to get me?" And I said, "Yeah, Dad, that's the way that it works." And they're off and running. And my dad couldn't believe it. So another tip for anybody visiting Las Vegas, if you're on the lookout for some companionship, or don't want companionship, center bars at any place in Las Vegas on the Las Vegas Strip, extremely popular for hookers to hang out at. So Chandelier Bar, the Blue Bar. Chandelier Bar is over at Cosmo, Blue Bar over at Fontainebleau. They now have like a mirrors bar or glass bar. It's called the Glass Bar over at the Planet Hollywood, which looks really cool. That bar, really popular for hookers. By the way, also really popular for Dennis Rodman, because that's actually where I saw Dennis Rodman, was at that bar in the old school days, when it was just the other bar. And what other bars are there? So MGM Grand, there's the Lobby Bar, which that was prevalent, and I actually saw somebody get a bottle smashed on top of their head at that bar. So yeah, that was fun. So that's our story for today. Hopefully it was a good one, of me possibly meeting a prostitute and scarily almost getting, taken upstairs. But I'm usually pretty good at sniffing those out. So that one was actually really, really interesting. That kind of kind of snuck up on me. But I'll hopefully do more of those kind of going on in the future. I didn't want to waste all the really good ones at the top because I do have some fun ones of when I went to go to Delilah's or when I'm at Vegas Vicky, different restaurants, and I didn't want to waste them all at once. So that's my story for the day. I might even share you some stories from when I was a concierge for sort of the new audiences, but that's our episode today for Concierge Confidential. Hopefully you guys enjoyed somewhat of a new format, and hopefully we're able to keep going in the future. So make sure to follow me on all my socials, Brian Ortega26 or Brian_Ortega26 on Instagram, and then also follow Concierge Confidential on Concierge Confidential _LV on Instagram as well, and at Keys to Vegas on TikTok. So again, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. If you see me out in town, make sure to come up and say hello, and remember, keep it confidential.